morning, guys. This is Joe from New York Trading Room. Today it's Friday, November 5th.
Forward guidance was actually not much of a thing, and actually it was when you had the rate decision, that is when the market found out what the central bank was going to do as well. So I think markets, boo-hoo the markets to a certain extent as well. Actually the FTSE barely moved. In fact, the FTSE went up in yesterday's session as well. So yes, I know the banks came off and I know sterling came off as well, but the markets seem to think they want their hand held in so many ways, and there used to be a situation where actually the risk you take on markets was your own risk as well, rather than actually having this put in place by the likes of Draghi, the put in place with quantitative easing from the likes of Powell and from the Bank of England as well. Well, I say boo-hoo the markets. You get used to the fact that actually it's a big world out there and you have to make your own decisions. If you're going to go long sterling as well, don't expect the Bank of England to hold your hand on your sterling position when there are bigger factors out there. And I think Andrew Bailey, although one might have a digression on where one thinks inflation is going, I think he's right to say this isn't about us giving a running commentary on interest rates for the markets.
It is easy to forget that we didn't always have forward guidance that was as granular as this. It is a relatively new development that we expect central bankers to map out exactly how they're thinking. I would just pick up on Karen's point around mortgage markets and what we've been hearing from banks, namely because it feels like the Bank of England communication has been really focused on the main street. I mean, you've had so much media coverage and so much effort, even in the press conference yesterday, for the first several questions. It was all going to mainstream media, not business networks. And I think it is a testament to how careful they're being about making sure that what they do doesn't affect the economic recovery and doesn't handicap growth, because a rise in interest rates can have detrimental effects on households and businesses. So I thought you made a really great point, Karen, on that.
Yeah, it's tightening, isn't it, market rates that impacts people. And if they see, I've already had statements come out from banks around credit cards, and you've seen very much a lot of action in the mortgage market. We've been talking about whether we've got more financial innovation coming with fixed rate mortgages, because there's this huge reliance in this country on just tracking or variable, which means you're 100% exposed to those rate hikes when they happen. So I think there's been a lot of concern ahead of any potential rate move, which simply didn't happen. So, well, yep, the repricing the banking system, that's going to be interesting. And I think you'd be pretty disappointed if you'd fixed or taken up one of those new products in the last couple of weeks.
And many people with mortgages, and many young people have never been in this environment before, so a real change in thinking. All right, we'll park the Bank of England conversation there for now, because we're going to take a quick break, and then right after, Euronext profits and revenue jump amid a trading and listing boom. And we're going to speak to the CEO, Stefan Bujna, after the break.
So my target is somewhere here, near to this black line. So because we usually trade between those two lines, like you can sell right here, you can buy right here. So my plan, if we get somewhere around the 1798, maybe we will take a profit. So let's see. So I'm shooting for the black line target. And when we get here, I maybe go short. Like you can see, I usually trade, if the market is going higher, I short, and my target is here. And if the market going down, I buy around the black line, and my target will be the next black line at the top. So we've been doing this all week, all year, the same trade, the same every day, the same plan, so there's nothing new. There you go. So this is the first trade.
is about phasing out coal. So I was not that pessimistic.
Obviously, we are faced with challenges, but we have a lot of opportunities. Being a small country, we can act quickly, and we have green resources in energy.
Need to be optimistic, but it will take hard work to achieve what we need to achieve. But everybody knows we need to stick to 1.5 degrees. That's what we need to do.
If we don't cooperate, we're not going to solve this problem, and this is especially true for the big emitters. Personally happy that the US is back at the table, and that some of the countries are moving in the right direction. It's not enough, but at least it's a first step in the right direction.
We're making progress, and I think there's a really strong sense of momentum here in relation to the whole agenda around climate change, and I feel that. And I think, with the major commitments made by individual countries, but also collectively, the tone was very strong yesterday at the opening.
The lack of trust, how you build trust? You build trust by giving the first step, whatever you are. If you are in the, let's call the developing world, your first step must be, for example, to execute the nature-based solutions. Yeah. Within the tropics, it's most of the developing world and most, for example, of the tropical forests. So our step to build trust is deliver.
Meanwhile, EDP has reported a 21% rise in net profit to 510 million euros for the first 9 months of this year. The results were bolstered by the Portuguese utility's recent acquisition of Spanish rival Visgo and by a strong performance in EDP's Brazilian operations. But the group's wind and solar power unit underperformed, with profits halving compared to a year ago. Well, I'm delighted to say Miguel Stilwell Dandarade is the CEO of EDP and joins us now. So, sir, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Look, here at COP26, there's been a lot of very big announcements this week, but do we still face technological barriers that will mean that we can't go as quickly from fossil fuels to renewables as quickly as we want, sir? Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. First of all, it's always a pleasure to be here. I think going to your question, no, there are no technological barriers. I think it's more a question of having the political will and the policies in place to be able to continue to drive this forward. And I think being here this week at the COP26, I mean, you really see there is a lot of commitment at all levels. And no one thinks that this is going to be an easy process, fighting climate change. This is something that has to be done, one step at a time, continue to increase, let's say, the commitments that are made by the different countries and the companies and the policymakers throughout the world. And I think collectively, we need to continue to move this forward year after year to getting there. On the technological side, what I would say is renewables are clearly extremely competitive versus any other form of technology for producing energy. And you see it throughout the different geographies. So that is something that we are firmly committed to. We've been investing in that for the last 2 decades. And it's something that we continue to expand. Now with our latest acquisition also in Southeast Asia, it's another step I think that we are giving in terms of helping decarbonize the economy globally.
Miguel, if there aren't technological barriers, then why do we see frailties in the current amount of supply that we can get from renewables, from wind, from solar? And of course, we don't really have reliable green hydrogen on an industrial scale as of yet that is price competitive across the board as well. So if we don't have those issues, why do we have such a frail European energy market, or have had one this summer?
Because I think, that's a great question. I think this is a process which takes time. We're talking about an infrastructure which has been built up over the last 100 years, very much based on fossil fuels, and which now needs to be completely revamped. That's why we talk about the energy transition. So this is not something which you can just change from one day to the other. So you have seen a substantial increase in the percentage of renewables over the last couple of years. And that's really expected to accelerate over the next decade or decades as we move towards net zero by 2050. That is part of the plan, both by the European currently being discussed. I think people are optimistic.
Okay, guys, we did the first trade to 85, the second trade to 32. So like I said, our target every day 500, 600, 700, 1000, and you can see we did the last week it's about 8,400. We took almost like 20 trade. We have one loss. Oh, so our second one. So two trade was loss and 20 and 18 was winner. And if you go for 3 months, you can see we did 39,000. If we go for whole year, we did about 134,000 and we draw 135,000. That's it for today. Have a great weekend, everybody, and I will talk to you later.